Hello, good morning. Um, we're going to get into some coding. I'm just answering Alex here. We're um, we're discussing React states and some new code sandbox stuff, and we're kind of exploring the different things we want to do, like how would we actually express it. And this is an interesting example. It's how we will do notifications. Sorry, I'm eating breakfast. Where we have like a project. This is just random stuff. Where you load it, and then there's an error, and we want to show a notification. So identifying the error isn't like a problem. We just execute something when we move into the error state. But then we want to show toast message. And let's see. How would we do that? So one answer I had for Alex here was that when we reach the error, we can call an environment effect. So showing toasts is like an environment effect. Yeah, anyways, it's an environment effect. And the benefit of that is that we can call like error. It has a title. On the primary button, we do retry. And when we click that button, we can dispatch back into the project that we want to retry fetching it. What's cool about that is that the notifications error method can return a disposer. So if for some reason the project moved to a different state or the whole project itself was unmounted, it could actually dismiss that notification, which is pretty cool. Like you get an error related to your current context and you like move somewhere else, you move to a different page or something, and then it just dismisses that notification because it's not valid anymore. So that's pretty cool. But the way Alex set this up is that the toaster itself is like a feature. And in this case, you don't have methods. You only have dispatches, because that's the restriction we've set for React states. So how would you deal with this here if we want to do it that way? Yeah, that's a good question. Like, first of all, like we would do notifications, dispatch. We would do like the same thing here. Now the thing is, what's a little bit not weird, but maybe out of place, is that we're actually passing a function on the action. Like there's nothing wrong with doing that in terms of like it's possible to do that. It just breaks a principle. And that principle is that actions should be serializable because they're going into the state. And you don't really want functions in your state. Like, it's kind of silly thing to say. Like, it depends on what you want to use the state for. Like, if you want to put the state in local storage or pass it to the server or something like that, you can't serialize a function. But like, you would typically put like a map or a set or whatever inside your state. Like, you could do that. The only thing is that those aren't like immutable, so you wouldn't know when they actually change. So you would kind of have to, every time you add something to the map, you would basically have to create a new map for React to work. So ideally, you don't want to pass things, but you can make exceptions, of course. For example, this function. But I think this is like the difference. So yeah. It's an interesting example. Yeah, it's like, is notifications a feature, or is it just an environment effect? It's it's very interesting. That's for sure. The easy way out there is to say that it's an environment effect, and it kind of is. Like, it's very easy to argue that it is an environment effect. Because it's more part of, like, maybe even, like, yeah, I would definitely say it's an environment effect, because in some environments you actually do have native notifications. Like, you don't even have to implement them manually like you do in the browser. So in that sense, I would definitely argue that it's an environment effect. But still, it's interesting. There might be other scenarios where you actually do want to, like, pass in functions or other unserializable stuff to a feature. For example, a file. Well, you can't just say, well, that's not serializable. It's perfectly fine. And you don't want to mutate, like, you don't want to change the file itself. So I guess that's kind of the way you separate unserializable from bad and good. It's like a function, you don't want to change the function itself. Like, the only way to change the function is to replace the function. And the same is for the file. The only way to change the file is to replace the file. While a set and a map, you can change them without replacing the map and the set themselves, which is bad in terms of how React does reconciliation. So I would say, yeah, that's what I would say. So yes. So I don't know if you're watching, Alex, but that's my answer. Because notifications is really an environment thing in terms of some environments has native notifications, but putting that aside, you can dispatch functions and other non-serializable stuff into a reducer. The only stuff you really should not pass in is like map or set, because they can be mutated. For example, a function or a file cannot be mutated. They are just not serializable. So you could dispatch like notifications dispatch type error on click, blah blah blah. Yeah, so you could dispatch and that would be perfectly fine. What we do not get is the disposer, because the dispatcher doesn't return anything. But we Could we do that? We could pass in a cancellation. So, okay, I'm not sure if this would work. Notifications are, yeah, so, come on. So let's say you did, oh, what's happening? Cancel. So this is a function, and this is the yeah, this gets complicated. So you would dispatch like, this is interesting. Our on cancel. Yeah, so you would kind of have to do something like this. So you could say notification.dismiss, for example. Or wait, you could just do on cancel, and then you would do notifications dismiss. Oh, sorry, dispatch type dismiss. Oh yeah, you don't even need it, of course. Wait, I'm messing things up here. Yeah. Sorry. Of course we can do this. We just so what you would do, you would just dispatch a dismiss. The thing is, like, how do you know which notification to dismiss? So that would require an ID for the notification. And again, it's problematic because we only dispatch into the notifications feature. We don't really have any way to like ask it for anything. We can just say that something happened here. But what we could do, we could just introduce an ID. So we would create a unique ID for it, and then we would also dismiss. So we would say ID. So this would be const. And you can do cancellation like this. So ID would be, what's this? It's, yeah, project error, and then project ID. That's perfectly fine. So the way, since you don't have these methods, you basically do more control from the outside. Like you have to add that ID, which is not really a bad thing. Like you can say that it's fragile because you might use the same ID for multiple notifications. But if you do, it's not like a bad thing because you would just dismiss all of them. If they have the same ID, it's the same thing. But yeah, anyways. Let's do some refactoring. I have 30 minutes to do this. So what I discovered is that I actually don't want this use states hook. It has, I tend to do this. I have this craving, I have this intuition, or this craving that I want to abstract. Like it's fun to create abstractions, but sometimes you move a little bit too fast, because the point of React states is to use the React primitives. And the use states doesn't really do much. it just hooks the helpers on top of like the context. And I don't like that. I think it's better that we just use the, oh, this is interesting. Oh, how would I do this? Yeah, I think that's the thing. We're going to explore this. So I'm going to keep this for now. And then we are going to, first of all, it's not going to be called map anymore. It's going to be called match. And that's just because like Lodash and stuff like that, they, maybe I should just rename symbol. Tmap. It already exports like map, and it's very generic. Match is more like your matching state. Match, and then we say match matches yes. What I do wonder is how we're going to deal with the dev tools. I think I have a plan, but I'm not sure if it will work. But that's something we need to explore as well. Okay, so we have match, we have transition. So when we write these tests now, yeah, let's rename symbol to match. Where are we? Do we have any examples where we actually create? Oh no, we're just testing the helper function. So the point is that you would rather use, you wouldn't do this. You would say transition, you would say exec, and you would say, yeah, I'm not using match here. So you would actually just use the React use reducer. And you would say context, action, transition, context, action, and then you have the object there. So you would rather express it like this. It's such a, like, you're using a reducer. It's just a way you change the state of the reducer. It would be like using immer inside the reducer, right? It's such little overhead, and it's more explicit what you're doing. You're using a reducer, but you're just transitioning the reducer. And then what we get back here is the actual auth reducer. So this becomes more clear now, because now we have auth and dispatch from the auth reducer. And what we actually use the DevTools on is the auth reducer. So we need to test this. And then what you do is that you exec on auth instead. And the reason is that you can do, what I discovered is patterns where you can do nested execs. Like you can have nested context in React states. So finite state machines has like one level with all the states, and that can blow up. It might be too many states. So the way when you move into state charts, you have like nested state nodes and parallel state nodes, and you can do that just fine. Like you create contexts within contexts, where you can have multiple contexts. So if I create a new context for authenticating, maybe we have like a nested context. That's a nested, like state chart nested thing. And then I might not only have one, but I might have two, and that means parallel state nodes. And the really cool thing is that it's not only nested states and parallel states, it's actually nested contexts. And nested or parallel contexts, which means that you can tie values to these nested states, which you can't do in other implementations, where you have just this root context and all the values on the root context needs to that needs to be used for any nested parallel state node, and that makes you break the principles of state machines, which is that you start adding like values that might be there, you start adding flags and stuff like that. Anyways, where were we? Okay, so that's basically it. That's the only change. Use reducer, you explicitly do the transition, and then if you were to use a context provider here, you would the value would be the auth reducer. So you consume the context provider as a reducer, meaning you only have access to the state and the dispatch. And this fits in with other patterns as well that has been discovered. So that's good. That's basically it. That was the refactor. But now we have to make sure that all the other stuff here works. So is that's interesting, because that needs to be a new helper. If we even need, but we don't need that, right? Again, it's too much abstraction. This is how you check it. You would just do, you just need to, yeah, as I said, you just need to check it. So you would do like if auth state equals, that's it, that's an is, right? You don't need a function for that. So let's drop that, simplifying the API. But this one's interesting, the when. So this one is using throwing promises. So it's suspense ready, but I think this would have to be expressed as, so we have to make this, we have to make, okay, let's do this properly. So we will create an auth feature app. So we're rather going to say context equals react create context. Yeah, and this is also nice because now we don't need that additional states type. We can remove that. Yeah, this simplifies the API. This is good. Create context as context react dispatch action. Isn't that how it's? Yeah. I don't know if there's a react type for the return value of a reducer. Is there? Reducer. Oh. Would I say context? Yeah, exactly. Action. Ah, cool. And then we have auth. So export auth feature context. So we wouldn't do this. We would rather return context provider value is the auth reducer, and we need to have children here. So let's add the children. Children react node, blah 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 blah. And let's remove this. Why is this yelling? Oh, it's not a return result. Oh, god damn it. React reducer. Don't they have the return result from a maybe I can look at this one. Like, but does it actually? Yeah. I don't think they have a type. Oh, well, that's interesting. Okay, anyways, no biggie. Okay, so there we have the auth feature. Yeah, and then export const use auth equals React use context. Okay, so in our app now, we can remove a ton of stuff. We can remove this, we can remove all of this. Auth, and now I can say auth dispatch instead, and then I say use auth. Now the thing is, I have to provide the auth feature. Like that. Yep, and then we have the app, and then oh yeah, we're not really doing anything here. Anyways, that doesn't matter. Yeah, but we can hello auth state. Cool. Okay, great. And then we have this when thingy. So typically you would do like .when here, but we can't do this now. So what we would have to do is I think we would need a hook for that. Maybe it doesn't actually, does it fit in here? How would we do this? Where does it fit in? Hi, crazy Saxons. Yeah, thanks for the feedback on the streams. Yeah, I'm excited about the book streaming thing as well. It's it should be like a couple of streams to kind of set up the like the landing page and stuff, which is kind of what you it's not, the stream is not only about like writing a book, but it's also how to kind of do the stuff around it, or try to do the stuff around it, which is like bring attention to it and stuff like that. So we'll try that. But yeah, nested context, does this mean React state trees incoming? Well, I'll show an example. It's actually very straightforward. It doesn't need a concept in itself. It's basically more, what are you trying to model? And I do have an example, but I have to focus on this for now. But yeah, when I update React states, there will be an example of what nested contexts mean with an example. Typically, you don't need this, but you might have something very, very complicated that you're modeling, and then that can help you. Anyways, yeah, so how will we deal with this suspense? The question is, where would you do it? Because we could do something here. So we could say authenticated auth equals like use when auth auth authenticated, something like that. But that doesn't look very good, does it? Yeah, this one's a little bit use when, that will be the name of it. Use when auth. Yeah, I guess the thing, like, this is perfectly okay. The thing is that this is suspense ready, meaning that if it's not authenticated, it will throw a promise. And that promise, when it resolves, it will re-render the app. That's the thing. This is experimental, by the way. This is not something, I haven't seen a scenario where you kind of want to do this. But yeah, what you can do, instead of doing it here, you can also do it here. Use authenticated auth. And you would do yeah, I'm not sure if I like this very much. The good thing about doing it here is that here we just use, this is the thing we are actually checking. We don't care about the dispatcher here. We only care about the actual auth, the state. And now we're getting back the authenticated auth. But where were we? Here we do want to return both the dispatcher and the other thing. So you would kind of use auth. You would kind of do this, but then you actually pass in an array. So you have where the first item is the context and the second is the dispatcher, but we don't really care about the dispatcher. It's only for syntax sake we're doing this, which I don't like. And I don't like that you have to explicitly like create all these hooks just because you're interested in a specific state. And again, this is very experimental. We haven't seen any use case for it. Well, we have seen a use case. We haven't seen a use case for suspense, but we have seen a use case for we want to deal with a specific state. And then we just happen to make it suspense ready. And then it gets a little bit yeah. You could also say if auth state equals authenticated, like this is the only thing I want to deal with. And then you could say, you could like do throw wait for like I'm just playing around there. This is more explicit. This tells you what actually happens in a component related to suspense. But here you might get in this situation where you where you forget to do the throwing. So it's not, that's not good. It wouldn't it would never work. But one other thing we could do is, instead of having like a use states hook, we could rather create a we could rather do it here. Use states context. So what this would do is that it would still return the array, the reducer array. but it would add something to it. It would add the when. That means that you could still do use auth when authenticated. The only thing is that we add this when to the returned array. That's what we basically do when we consume it. It's kind of annoying that it returns an array. I know kind of why they do it, but it's really annoying because you don't want to, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Oh, I was hoping we would get through this. What's interesting is that, again, well, it's... Yeah, we haven't really explored this pattern. Oh my god. Do I want to do anything about it now? Or... No, I don't think I want to do anything about it now. Or do I? Do you have use states context? Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, what we're doing is we're basically just saying, but it's this purity thing. Like, do we really want to like add functions to the array coming from use reducer? Or do we rather want to export const use authenticated auth? Like, here you're very explicit about, okay, some component wants to use a specific state. Well, oh, wait a minute. What we can do instead is we can have another... It's so annoying. I bought this LED strip from IKEA and the connector disconnects all the time, which is ironic. It's a connector and all it does is disconnect. Yeah, so what I meant was if we rather made a helper out of it. So, yeah, this is interesting. But it needs to be a hook because it needs to, like, the implementation needs... Or does it? No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does. It needs a use effect. Or does it? That's the question. That we need to answer that. Does it need a use effect? So if I did... So you could do when auth authenticated. Like we could do something like this. This is kind of like use observable. This is what MobX does, use observable. So we could have like use when auth is authenticated, and then within that you would have the use effect and everything. And this way you wouldn't like have an issue where you would forget about like the throwing. It's more natural how you do this. This would give you the context in the authenticated state. Yeah, I like this. And yeah, and then if it doesn't match this, it throws the promise, it's suspense ready. It just works. And this is a React feature, so it should be a hook. Yeah, I like that. Let's try that. Okay. Use when would be C extends T context. So the first one would be the context. Why is it yelling so much at me? There we go. This would be the state, and this would be one of the states on the context. And then you would have a callback, and then that callback gets the context in, let's see, C extends state. Oh yeah, we also need that as a S extends C state. This would be S. And then it returns React node. Cool. One thing I do wonder about though is if we do this and we want to use, so what if we have nested contexts? How would that look like? Would we like do this? So let's imagine we had like a validation thing. Then we would do like use when validation is like valid. Does this look good? Well, it's no difference from the exec. Like if you have nested contexts, you have to express the nested contexts. Well, it works. That's the thing. Like it does work. Yeah, we'll just have to try this, I think. So the way this would work is we would so you do the when, which you basically do here. Whens? Where is it getting the whens from? Where are the whens? Oh, there are the whens. Oh, it's a use ref. Okay. I think these needs to be there no matter. Do I need these now? I don't think I need these now. Yeah, I don't think I need these now. Oh, I guess this simplifies a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, we have to think about this a little bit differently now. Do I even need this? Oh, how does suspense work again? Oh shit, I have a meeting. So we have this promise, and this promise. Well, it will be a. Ah, this is so annoying. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We can do S and in there. It's just because TypeScript isn't able to understand that when the state is this state, then this context is actually typed to this state. But yeah, it doesn't matter. So, but do I actually need? So we need a promise, but when does that promise resolve? I think I need to look at the suspense example again, because I can't remember exactly how it works. Let's find it. I have to fix this. Call sandbox. Where is it? Search sandboxes. Suspense. I think this is the one I looked at. Spinner. Helpers. Wrap promise. Okay, so we have a promise. Here we go. Oh yeah, so you do have a promise that will resolve. That's what we don't really have here. That's the thing. Yeah, because that's why I was using the ref, so that we could like store. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we would need a ref here. React use ref null any. So if no ref current, then we want to add this promise, and that promise is, but we don't ever really resolve. Oh wait, no, this is not right. How would this work? Oh, of course. The reason it works with the use states hook is because we're putting it inside the. We're kind of putting it inside the reducer, kinda. Yes. Yeah, this won't work because we don't know. We don't have any place where we actually resolve the promise. Or wait, we do. Like, thinking. So what actually happens here? So it goes through here. It tries to use the when, but it's like, it's unauthenticated, for example. So this throws a promise. And then suddenly it changes the auth. It goes back, and now it's authenticated. And it runs the use when again. And now, yeah, this is interesting because we don't really need suspense in the sense that we don't really need suspense, because the fact that like we're not waiting for some external promise, we're just waiting for this auth to run again. Maybe I'm overcomplicating this. Yeah, I'm definitely overcomplicating this. Yeah, I am. Yeah. Like what you want to do here, you just want to say if auth state. Oh auth state. Did I do something bad? Oh, any. Oh, yeah. Like if you just want to deal with this in an authenticated state, you just do that. And you can even say if not authenticated, you have to decide what you want to do. Like, okay, if it's not authenticated, let's just not render anything. Or maybe you want to throw an error to an error boundary. And then when you go down here, you actually do have, you see, you have the user because we know that we're authenticated. So I think that's a better way to do it, because this thing will reconcile again or run again every time there's a change to the auth. That's the point. So I think I've gone, like, the suspense thing was just something to well, the good thing about suspense, but it's not ready yet. Like suspense, the way I think about it is on server side rendering. What's interesting about that, the way I see it, is like, what if you want to render something on the server and you want to wait for the suspenses to resolve before you actually return the result of that render? Because I believe that's what suspense does. In that case, this wouldn't work, because you actually do want to wait for authenticated. Like wait for, oops, auth. So you would do use wait for auth authenticated, because that would indeed resolve the promise, which means that yeah, I just have this feeling that this is going to be super useful for server rendering. But what we could do is that if you don't have a promise currently, then we could create the promise. Yeah, so we wouldn't actually do this. We would rather, we would have to do this. So if we don't, let's call it pending promise. Pending promise. So if we don't have a pending promise and the state is correct, we just run it. It's done, right? We don't care about this. But if it's not the correct state and we still don't have a pending promise, we'll add that pending promise. Well, we don't add the actual pending promise. We add, let's see, pending resolver. Sorry, like it's a little bit informal, the meeting I'm going to. So what we would do is we would say pending resolver current would be resolve. Okay, so if we don't have a pending resolver and the state is correct, we'll just give you the state or just run the thing. If we do have a pending resolver, well, again, if we don't have a pending resolver, return result. We create a promise. Throw suspender. I have to think. This is so mind-bending, the suspend stuff. It's crazy. And with React hooks and like the component rendering the hook multiple times, but and the ref, it's like suddenly there, not the first time, but it's there the second time. Like, it's so freaking mind-bending, all of this. Okay, we'll have to continue tomorrow. I won't get through this. React States DevTools compared to XState DevTools. I wouldn't compare them. XState, with its declarative API, they can create a visual tool on top. Like, they have much more power because it's declarative. They have much more power on creating a visual tool. Like the React States DevTool is really powerful. Like, it does show you at runtime, it shows you like all the things you've expressed. It shows you all the action dispatches that are ignored. It shows you what transition effects ran due to a state transition, even if that transition effect was canceled because you exited the state before the transition effect was done, stuff like that. So it's super powerful, and it can be way more visual than it is, but it could never get to the level of XState. And it could certainly not do what XState is planning to do, which is to actually build the state machine in a visual way. So I think. But yeah, but it's way better than, I'm thinking this is an improvement over Redux. So this library is like between Redux and XState, really. So you have a more powerful dev tool than Redux has. And like you have way more constraints and explicit states and stuff. With Redux, you just have a bunch of state values that doesn't really have any relationship. But with XState, you're going like all in with state charts and declarativeness and a lot of tooling around it. That's how I think about it. Anyways, I have to go. We'll talk more. Oh, not tomorrow, but yeah, Monday, I guess. Bye for now.